So good morning, Alexandra.
Good morning.
For our listeners here, my name is Ineses Bražes. I am a journalist at Baltica, and with me here is the main reason why we are here, the journalist from Radio Free Europe's Ukrainian service, investigative project schemes. And she has been working on a really important topic relating Latvia too. But first of all, Alexandra, you are in Kiev now. How is it? Do you have heating? Do you have electricity?
It's a bad situation with heating and electricity, but we are trying to do our best and making a really interesting investigation.
Okay, so I believe it's really hard to work in these conditions, but you have done a really great job here. And let's start at the beginning. So basically, for our listeners, we are publishing a story about a Russian historian who is living in Latvia. At least he was living until now. And Alexander, you were the one uncovering the story. I was only helping with this. Could you tell me, how did you come across the story?
Yeah, of course. The Danish public broadcaster received a large set of data, tens of thousands of emails and documents about the activities of a Russian state found from a source. And each year, the materials with the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project and other media outlets, including schemes. And the documents concern the Russian Foundation for Supporting and Protecting the Rights of Compatriots Living Abroad, also known as the Pravfond. It was created in 2011 by Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the federal agency Россотрудничество under a decree signed by the Vladimir Putin. The supervisory board is headed by Russia's Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov. Officially, the organization provides legal support to Russians living abroad. However, the leaked documents show that Pravfond was also used as a tool for spreading Russian influence globally. Browsing the documents, we found that a Ukrainian political analyst is mentioned in Pravfond-funded projects. They were, however, led by someone else, and we took a closer look and saw that it was a Lithuanian-based association headed by Valery Engel that pitched this project idea to the Russian state organization.
So the main hero of our story is Valery Engel, who is a Russian historian living in Latvia. And basically our focus is on him, right?
Yep.
And what can you tell us about him?
It's Russian history who resides in Latvia, and he appears to have cooperated with the Russian state-found Pravfond after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine starting in 2022, and the European Union imposed sanctions against the fund in 2023. According to leaked documents, Engel requests and likely received funding to produce reports about alleged xenophobia and discrimination of Russian speakers in Europe. Experts with questions about this report say they echo Kremlin narratives about Ukraine and the European Union. And the leaked documents also show that Engel's activities were often supported by Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in particular when it came to presenting his report at international events. Such as those of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and the United Nations.
So just to add for our listeners, it's not like Engels has been not known in Latvia before. We have written stories about him before. He is a known actor paid by Kremlin, but now the main issue is that he received money from Pravfond, which is under EU sanctions, and he did receive the money even after the EU sanctions, and that is a criminal offense in Latvia. So this guy, Engels, in Latvia, of course, he is relevant because he has been living here, even if he is a Russian citizen. But what about Ukraine? Why this topic is relevant to you?
because Russia has been interfering in the internal affairs of foreign countries for a long time. It meddled in election, launched discrimination campaigns, and conducted cyber attacks internationally. Such Russian actions affected different countries, but I cite Ukraine primarily, because the Kremlin, however, rarely left a financial trace proving it financed such destabilizing efforts. But not this time, because the story is important, because it provides a rare inner look into how Russians secretly sponsored the promotion of anti-Ukrainian and anti-Western narratives at high-level international events. So, one of those authors of this research appeared to be a Ukrainian political analyst. It isn't a regular finding to come across evidence alleging that a popular political commentator living in Kyiv has recently linked with Russia. The leaked data shows that he was involved in what we believe were Russian-sponsored projects even after the start of the Russian all-out war in 2022. His most recent joint publications with Engel, which was published in Moscow, was released in 2025. In the meantime, Bortnik started on his own YouTube channel, which has more than 150,000 subscribers, inviting Ukrainian members of parliament from ruling factions, soldiers, and volunteers to the studio as guests. And we asked experts to analyze one of the Engel's recent publications. So they said that his research on xenophobia promotes narratives that align with the official rhetoric of Russian state, and consequently presence on international platforms. These Russian-funded reports shape the international community perception of Ukraine.
And the guy you're talking about is Ruslan Bortnik, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically there is Valery Engel, who is living in Latvia, receiving money from Kremlin and doing his researches on publications about xenophobia and how Russian speakers are oppressed in Latvia and other EU countries. And then he has associates, and Ruslan Bortnik, Ukrainian guy, is one of them, right?
Yeah.
And do we really know that he is a real associate of him?
They have been working together for a long time, since 2008, and Bortnik made different videos, Engel, on his YouTube channel.
So that they know each other, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
documents also show that they've been working on these studies together too, right?
Yeah, they made different publications together.
Mm-hmm. And when you approached Bortnik, what he said?
He said that he never gets Russian money, he didn't know about these publications, and so on and so on.
Did he also deny knowing Valery Engel? He said that he doesn't know.
No, he said that he knows him.
But they are not working together.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about the outcome of the story, because that's the most important part of investigative work. What comes next? Latvian State Security Service, when we were working on this story, added Engel to the so-called blacklist. So he is not allowed to enter or reside in Latvia anymore. What about Bortnik? Did you ask your security service? Are they doing anything?
Yeah, of course, we asked Ukrainian Security Service, and they said that the subject of our investigation, so Bortnik, had been attracting the attention for a long time in Ukraine, respectively, and our source says that intelligence took the findings of our story seriously, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
So there's going to be an update probably, right?
Yeah.
When we are recording these podcasts, we mostly talk to our speakers also about how challenging the journalism is and how challenging our work is. What would you say was the most challenging part of this story?
I think that it's probably verification of documents and emails from the leak with TOF, because Engel communicated with representatives of Pravfond from different email addresses, and we verified them and found that some of these addresses are linked to his Russian phone number, which he also uses for messaging apps such WhatsApp and Telegram. We also compared signatures on the documents, and in one case Engel sent a scanned copy of his Russian passport to the fund's coordinators, and we compared his signature in the statutes of his organization, the European Foundation for the Development of Democracy, with the signature on grant applications submitted to Pravfond, and found them to be very similar. We also examined the metadata of a grant application and budget documents sent from Engel's email to Pravfond, and using several metadata analysis tools, they found that the last modifications to the file were made by a user named Valery Engel.
Could you also elaborate on the findings, what we have? Like, it's not just one email or it's not just one document, it's a lot of things that prove that he received money from Pravfond, right?
Yeah, it's 100 mails and documents and grant applications and contracts signed by Pravfond and Engel. So they cooperated with Pravfond for a long time.
And those documents also show that they cooperated even after the Pravfond was put under the EU sanctions, right?
Yeah.
We talked about what Bortnik is saying, that he knows nothing about this. What about Engel's?
Engel denies our finding too and says he did not receive any funding from Pravfond after 2022.
Was he keen to talk to you? Was he, I don't know, polite, or was he shocked, surprised? How did the call went?
He was a little bit surprised, and I don't think that he was polite. But he really said that it was a provocation from journalists, and he denied all our findings.
And how he said, like, we have documents, and he's saying, no, that's not true. What was his reasoning?
He said that it could be a Russian corruption, so the coordinating of Pravfond made different grant application using his signature and so on and so on, so he didn't know about it.
So it's someone doing something on his behalf. That's his side of story, right?
Yeah.
And is there anything else that didn't make it into the article? I mean, we have few pages of our story, but there were a lot more of documents and any other things. Any behind-the-scene details you want to share?
Yeah, really interesting detail that in the leak we also found that Engel corresponded with Russian propagandist lawyer Oleksandr Brod and sent him his report on xenophobia, and Brod has been under European Union sanctions since 2023 for supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine and promoting pro-Russian narratives, and he serves as a member of Vladimir Putin's Presidential Council for Civil Society and Human Rights in Russia. So, for example, a report founded by Pravfond was presented in Moscow in 2023 in a venue linked to the Russian Foreign Ministry, the Konjarakov Fund for Public Democracy. And among the guests were officials from the Russian Foreign Ministry and Oleksandr Brod, who was already under European Union sanctions at the time. And according to the event program obtained by us, Brod was given the first opportunity to speak after Engel's presentation.
So just to give a little insight, when did you start to work on this story?
We started working on the story, I think that in October last year.
So it's been almost 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Journalism takes time, right?
Yeah, because we check all the documents, grant applications, trying to figure out with all this information and try to verified all this email address. So it was really a long story.
And just to add a little bit of background info, as I said, the Baltica has been writing about Engel before, but it was quite some time ago. I think it was after illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. And then he kind of kept low profile in Latvia. He was still doing some things abroad, like presenting his researches and other things, and still communicating with Pravfond, but he kept low profile in Latvia. And I would say that he was almost forgotten here. And that also shows that the state security service, they say that they have monitored him, but it looks like they also wasn't so worried about him until now, because while we were preparing this story, he was put on this blacklist and is not allowed to enter and reside in Latvia anymore. And it happened just few days before the article sees the light. And just to add, the official information from the State Security Service, Engel was added to the blacklist in order to prevent a threat to Latvia's national security. So that's how the State Security Service sees him. And I don't know where he is. I don't know if he is in Russia and now is not just allowed to come to Latvia anymore, or is he in Latvia and will be somehow deported to Russia. That we will see, I think, in coming days. But I think that's a huge impact the story already made before even the publications saw the light, right?
Yeah, and it's so important because Engel has not suddenly become relevant now. He was active for a long time, including in Kremlin-backed activities, and for well over a decade.
And I want to thank you, Oleksandra and Anna, and other people who worked on this story, because you were the ones to uncover it. We were just helping on our side, but if you wouldn't start digging and uncover this story, maybe he would still be here and doing his Kremlin-paid work in EU. So thank you for the great work, and I hope the situation in Kiev will become more peaceful.
Thank you so much for helping. It was so lovely to speak to you.
Thank you.